They should be recessed at least 6 millimeters or 1/4 inch from the outer surface of the enclosure. Integrity of electrical equipment and connections. Internal parts of electrical equipment, including bus bars, wiring terminals, insulators, and other surfaces, should not be damaged or contaminated by foreign materials such as paint, plaster, cleaners, abrasives, or corrosive residues. There should be no damaged parts that may adversely affect safe operation or mechanical strength of the equipment, such as parts that are broken, bent, cut, or deteriorated by corrosion, chemical action, or overheating. Mounting and cooling of equipment. Electrical equipment should be firmly secured to the surface on which it is mounted. Wooden plugs driven into the holes in masonry, concrete, plaster, or similar materials should not be used. Cooling. Electrical equipment that depends on the natural circulation of air and conventional principles for cooling of exposed surfaces should be installed so that the room airflow over such surfaces is not prevented by walls or by adjacent installed equipment. For equipment design, for floor mounting, clearance between top surfaces and adjacent surfaces should be provided to dissipate rising warm air. Electrical equipment provided with ventilating openings should be installed so that walls or other obstructions do not prevent the free circulation of air through the equipment. Electrical connections. Termination devices such as pressure terminal or pressure splicing connectors and soldering lugs should be identified, installed, and used for the material of the conductor. Conductors should not be intermixed in the terminal or splicing connector or soldering lug where physical contact occurs between dissimilar conductors unless the device is identified for the purposes and conditions of use. Materials such as solder, fluxes, inhibitors, and compounds where employed such be identified for the use and should be of a type that will not adversely affect the conductor's installation or equipment. Connectors and terminals for conductors more finely stranded in Class B and Class C stranding as shown in Chapter 9, Table 10 should be identified for the specific conductor class or classes. Terminals. Connection of conductors to terminal parts should ensure a mechanically secure electrical connection without damaging the conductors and should be made by means of pressure connectors, including set screw type, solder lugs, or splices to flexible leads. Connection by means of wire bending, screws or studs, and nuts that have upturned lugs or the equivalent should be permitted for 10 AWG or smaller conductors. Terminals for more than one conductor and terminals used to connect aluminum should be so identified. Splices. Conductors should be spliced or joined with splicing devices identified for the use or by brazing, welding, or soldering with a fusible metal or alloy. Solder splices shall first be spliced or joined so as to be mechanically and electrically secure without solder and then be soldered, while splices, joints, and the free ends of conductors should be covered with an insulation equivalent to that of the conductors or with an identified insulating device. Wire connectors or splicing means installed on the conductors for direct barriers should be listed for such use. Temperature limitations. The temperature rating associated with the ampacity of a conductor should be selected and coordinated so as to not exceed the lowest temperature rating of any connected termination, conductor, or device. Conductors with temperature ratings higher than specified for termination should be permitted to be used for ampacity adjustment, correction, or both. Equipment provisions. The determination of the termination provisions of equipment should be based on 110.14c1a or 110.14c1b unless the equipment is listed and marked otherwise. Conductor ampacity is used in determining equipment. Termination provisions should be based on Table 310.16 as appropriately modified by 310.12. Termination provisions of equipment for circuits rated at 100 amps or less or marked for 14 AWG through 1 AWG conductor should be used only for one of the following. Conductors rated 60 degrees Celsius. Conductors with higher temperature ratings provided the capacity of such conductors is determined based on 60 degrees Celsius, 140 degrees Fahrenheit ampacity of the conductor size used. Conductors with higher temperature ratings if the equipment is listed and identified for use with such conductors. For motors marked with the design letters B, C, or D, Conductors having an installation rating of 75 degrees Celsius or higher should be permitted to be used, provided the ampacity of such conductor does not exceed the 75 degrees Celsius ampacity. Termination provisions of equipment for circuits rated over 100 amps or marked for conductors larger than 1 AWG should be used only for one of the following: conductors rated 75 degrees Celsius, conductors with higher temperature rating, provided the ampacity of such conductors does not exceed 75 degrees Celsius, capacity of the conductor size used or up to their capacity if the equipment is listed and identified for use with such conductors. Separate connector provisions. Separately installed pressure connectors shall be used with conductors at the ampacities not exceeding the ampacities at the listed and identified temperature rating on the connector. Terminal connection torque. Tightening torque valves or terminal connections should be as indicated on equipment or installation instructions provided by the manufacturer, and improved means should be used to achieve the indicated torque value. High leg marking. On a 4-wire delta connector system where the midpoint of the one phase winding is grounded, only the conductor or bus bar having the higher phase voltage to ground should be durably and permanently marked. Orange in color by an outer finish or by other effective means such that orange is visible at all splices and terminations. Such identification shall be placed at each point on the system where connection is made if the grounded conductor is also present. Arc flash hazard marking. In other than dwelling units, a permanent arc flash marking should be filled with factory applied to service equipment and feeder supply equipment, such as switchboard, switchgear, enclosed panel boards, industrial control panel boards, meter socket enclosures, and more control sensors that are likely to require examination, adjustment, servicing, or maintenance while energized. The marking shall comply with 110.21b, be located so as to be clearly visible to qualified persons, and be in accordance with applicable industry practice containing the following information: the nominal system voltage, the arc flash boundary, the available incident energy or minimum required level of personal protective equipment, the date the assessment was completed. Servicing of equipment. Servicing should be performed by qualified persons trained in servicing of equipment and should comply with the following. Servicing should be performed in accordance with the original equipment manufacturer's instructions and information included in the listing information, applicable industry standards, or as approved by the authority of jurisdiction. The servicing should be performed using identified replacement parts that are verified under applicable product standards. The replacement parts should comply with at least one of the following: be provided by the original equipment manufacturer, be designed by an engineer experienced in the design of replacement parts for the type of equipment being serviced, be approved by the authority having jurisdiction. Parts of electrical equipment that in ordinary operation produce arcs, sparks, flames, or molten metal should be enclosed or separated and isolated from all combustible materials. Light and power from relevant conductors. Circuits for lighting and power shall not be connected to any system that contains trolley wires with the ground return. Reconditioning equipment. Reconditioning equipment shall be permitted except where prohibited elsewhere in NEC Code. Equipment that is restored to operating condition shall be reconditioned with identified replacement parts and verified under applicable standards that are either provided by the original equipment manufactured or that are designed by an engineer experienced in the design of replacement parts for the type of equipment being reconditioned. Equipment to be listed. Equipment that is reconditioned and required by this code to be listed shall be listed or filled labeled as reconditioned using available instructions from the original equipment manager. Equipment not to be listed. Equipment that is reconditioned and not required by the code to be listed shall comply with one of the following: be listed or filled labeled as reconditioned. Have the reconditioning performed in accordance with the original equipment manufacturer instructions. If the options specified in 110.20a or 110.20b are not available, the authority having jurisdiction shall be permitted to approve reconditioned equipment, and recondition shall provide the authority having jurisdiction with documentation of the changes to the product. Equipment marking. Generally, the manufacturer's name, trade mark, or other descriptive marking by which the organization responsible for the product can be identified should be applied or affixed unto all electrical equipment. Other markers that indicate voltage, current, wattage, or other ratings should be provided as specified elsewhere in this code. The marker should be of sufficient durability to withstand the environment involved. Reconditioned equipment. Reconditioned equipment should be marked with the following: name, trademark, or other descriptive markings of the organization that performed reconditioning, the date of the reconditioning, the term record reconditioning, or other approved wording or symbol indicating that the equipment has been reconditioned. The original listing mark should be removed or made permanently illegible. The equipment nameplate should not be required to be removed or made permanently illegible. Only the part of the nameplate that includes the listing mark is applicable or approval of the reconditioned equipment should not be based solely on the equipment's original listing.